So let's talk about the topic of repositioning talent. Huge topic, very broad. So let's define it. So how would you define repositioning talent?
That's a tough one. There's so much in regards to talent in organizations that you have to wrestle with and deal with. I think repositioning for me means a couple of things. One, do I need to get rid of someone?
Right.
Two, do I need to move them into a different role? Three, do I need to move them out of a role that they've been in for a while because the organization is starting to outgrow them, outdistance them. The position they're in is they can't really fulfill what's being asked of them in that position anymore. And that may mean they have to be repositioned out of the organization.
Right.
May mean they have another opportunity within the organization.
Right.
But I think most of the time it would fall into, does someone need to be let go?
Right.
Or does somebody need to be moved?
Right.
Into another role, but still they're part of the team. So let's stay there within those two frameworks.
Right. So really, I mean, those kind of the frameworks. Even thinking though, in a big picture sense, it's really, are you on a decline? So you're going to have to make some change, maybe reposition talent. What do you need to do to maintain growth, or what do you need to do to kind of really push yourself over the edge in growth as well? So kind of pulling those in. So what are some measures? What's the format of kind of looking at? Is there a formula or a format where you can say, all right, we're trying to reposition talent? One of the things that I immediately went to was competency, that like the 3 C's. Mm-hmm. You're thinking through character, chemistry, and competency. Is the right person? Do they have a right chemistry with their team? And then kind of that last one. But I've also read, even Ron Edmondson had an article in May that talks about the 4th C, and he talked about culture. And then if you even read some of his blog posts or blog responses, they were talking about commitment, even like the commitment level to the organization. Are you in? Are you not in? So like, what would you look? How would you look at that? How would you format, man? How do we help our leaders who are watching this kind of put some handles around that? So I'm either in continued growth, I've flatlined and I've got to push towards growth, or we're in some kind of state of decline. So I've got to really turn the ship around a little bit to get that direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, the first place you got to start with is self-awareness. So to me, that's, if you're the leader who is needing to reposition talent, or you're the manager, or you're the director that has to worry about your team or deal with your team and look at where we're headed vision-wise, what's being asked of us to do, and do we have the right people on the bus in order to accomplish that? It has to start with self-awareness. So for you personally, this has to begin with you. And the first question you have to ask is, do I need to be repositioned? If you don't start there, then none of it's authentic to the rest of your team.
Right.
So that's where you got to begin is, am I in the right seat on the bus? Am I in the right role? Have I outgrown this role? Has this role outgrown me? You know, what's my calling? Am I still in that place? So you got to start there.
Right.
The second part you got to help your team do is discover who they are. So self-awareness starts with self-identity, which starts with a lot of tests, a lot of discovery of, man, let's do as many possible personality tests and analyze you in a good way to help you understand how you're wired. And if you can get there, then all of a sudden the conversation of, hey, listen, you've been in a marketing role for 3 years, but let's look at the results.
Right.
The results here show that you're not really wired that way.
Right.
I think this role is not the best for you.
Right.
I think we have another role that might fit you much better.
Yeah.
But if you start with the hunch as a leader that says to your team member, hey, I have a hunch that this is not really the right role for you, and you've done no self-discovery, you've done no analysis, you've done no assessments, then they're going to go, wait, why are you saying that? And it's going to become this sense of wait, I want to argue with you of why I'm not in the right seat on the bus.
Yeah, and that totally complements even the fact of thinking through developing leaders, holding on to a pulse of what is that leader going through? Are you in their grits, as they say, all the time? Are you right there in the midst? Because you and I were talking a little bit earlier. Today's leader is very different than the last generation of leaders. I mean, read all the time, tons of articles and books and whatever, and just that leadership for so long has been you're just going to do these tasks, and I'm going to assign you these tasks, and you're going to do that. I'm going to just automatically delegate.
Don't ask. Don't worry about everything else. Just get this done.
Right. Just get it done. And so there's a level that I love, that level of self-awareness, knowing where I'm at. So there's always a constant, like, how am I making myself valuable? One of the first things, first pieces of wisdom I got in my first job is a camp job, and working at a camp, and in the time and season transition, I would have never predicted this when I went there, but within 6 months, I was the most tenured staff there. 2 pieces of advice that I got, because I was like, man, I just married, and
you're now the expert.
I'm now the expert of this entire property. Like what am I going to do? Both to keep my job, because I didn't want to be one of those, because I was transitioned under a leader that was let go pretty soon after I got there. So what did they think of me, and that kind of thing. 2 things I learned really quickly: everyone's replaceable, and the second one is how do I make myself invaluable in an ever-changing environment? But how I make myself invaluable in that is understanding where I'm at. Where is my seat on the bus, and looking at that organization.
Yeah, and you know what is always true about in every organization is people, most of the time, when you have to have a repositioning conversation, they already know.
Right.
They're the first to be aware of the realities of the situation. So part of your role as a leader, even walking in practically, if you have to let someone go. I've heard this for many, many years. You hire really slow, and you fire really fast. So the way you avoid a lot of repositioning many times is that you take a long time to put somebody on your team. You analyze for a long time before you hire them. You make sure that you've got the right kind of people on the bus. But the right kind of people on the bus many times will self-assess their need to reposition. And they'll come to you and go, you know what, I don't think I'm the right person for this role anymore. Now you have that kind of culture. Wow, like that's
right.
empowering. That's the kind of culture you want to lead, versus the culture where you kind of walk in tiptoeing and you spend weeks, if not months, getting rid of someone or moving them into a different role because you're scared to have that conversation.
Right.
We're all big boys. We're all big boys and big girls. Like, if that's where you find yourself, deal with it. Deal with it fast. Deal with it professionally, but deal with it. Don't let it linger.